everybody. We're back again with another episode of Big Talk About Small Business.
I used my radio voice just then.
That's good.
You said business this time. Every other time you said business.
He said business.
Did I say it? I don't know.
No, I said business.
Okay.
He
You said, yeah.
Okay.
This is not how you spell it. I wouldn't say it like that.
Well, it's Big Talk About Small Business, and we're here on another Friday afternoon with a recording session in the beautiful studio of podcastvideos.com. And here with my friend.
I scored that domain. Isn't that
really?
crazy?
Oh, that's great.
I just got it like last year.
I thought Big Talk About Small Business was a great domain.
No, it's a great domain too.
Yeah.
They're both great domains.
Okay, that's right. Good.
I just was surprised.
Mark will figure out a way to monetize it.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
No, are you kidding?
It's about cash.
And you.
Eric is going to monetize it.
Well, I hear that's you. No, I heard. I mean, you know how to monetize this.
Give us a minute now. We'll get into this. I got my co-host, Eric Howerton, here.
What's up, Mark?
As you all know.
Glad to be here.
Everything, me too. And then I also have my friend of a considerable number of years, as well as one of my physicians,
Nice.
Dr. Nirmal Kilambi, who is established himself here in Northwest Arkansas as the leading urologist. But he's also a very entrepreneurial guy and quite a cool guy, as you can see.
Very cool.
Wow. I like that. I like that introduction.
Yeah.
I'll try to live up to that.
So, Nirmal, you grew up here in Fayetteville, didn't you?
That's right. I was born and raised in Fayetteville, Arkansas.
Yeah.
I won't say the year, but I can tell you that that time the phone book was about 6 inches high and about a centimeter thick. And I've got the phone book.
Do you?
From the month and year that I was born.
Oh, nice.
That's cool.
That's a good collection. That's a good idea, actually.
So,
My dad kept it.
Your dad was a professor, right?
That's exactly right. He came here in 1966 and was a professor for 35 years at the University of Arkansas in the department at that time of zoology, eventually became biological sciences. And my mother got her master's at the University of Arkansas in counseling and worked at the University Mullins Library for many years before they both eventually retired.
Yeah, and you've got like, what, 2 or 3 brothers?
Got 2 older brothers, both of whom were born in Seattle, Washington, where my dad got his PhD before coming to Fayetteville.
I see. So you were the youngest, huh?
I'm the youngest.
That explains a lot.
Yeah.
I'm the youngest.
I am too.
Oh,
Wow,
man.
that's
Look
coincidental.
at that.
And we're all doing a podcast on a Friday afternoon. It's interesting. Okay, that's good.
Sounds like something a spoiled youngest sibling, right?
We used to record these earlier on Friday, but Eric pushed them out.
Yeah.
And so he screwed every afternoon up on Friday.
I'm sorry.
But other than that, I love them.
Do we need to go back? Because
No,
that's not a
I'm
problem.
glad you could do it. I couldn't have made it otherwise. I was, doing some vasectomies a little bit earlier, so I wouldn't have been able to make it if it hadn't been 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
That's
True. That's not something I would ever have.
When you-
as
what-
as an
My goal
excuse.
is to see if you guys can. Well, if I could say something to make you guys stop talking and be surprised.
Build on that, Adam. This can be hard. I mean, Swag though, you can kind of catch him, man. Like you can get him backed in the corner, and he doesn't know what to say.
That's true. I'm not quite as fast on my feet as either of you two.
No, I know that's not true.
But so now these vasectomies you did today, are they reversible ones, or are they like rip all the plumbing out and forget it?
And my goal.
'Cause I know you can do both, right?
Well, I mean, presumably when they come in there, you want it to not be reversible, right? So I do everything I can so they don't come back together again. That can happen. That's a very rare risk, 1 in 3,000. But surprise,
Yeah.
there's
So
a
you
baby.
do irreversible vasectomies.
Well, you try, but like I said, they can spontaneously recannulate, and then somebody comes up pregnant. But I will tell you, statistically, the chances of that kid being that person's is a lot. Lower than the actual vas recanalizing. So genetics needs to happen if that happens.
I don't know.
Blew my mind. You just totally blew my mind.
I'm a little bit older than you, Eric, but I don't know if you've run into this yet with your friends. But some of them have had vasectomies. They talk about it constantly.
Do they?
In front of everybody. And I just don't
Like you
understand that.
just shouldn't do that.
Yeah, I don't think that's right.
No,
I
that's
think
not
it's nobody's business.
You know what I call that? Inappropriate.
Yeah.
I can tell you now, we have so many demands for vasectomy post Dobbs decision.
Yeah, we're living in Arkansas.
It's also unreal because, and this is a nationwide deal, that it's caused a lot of people to rethink things, and a lot of men are getting sterilized because they don't want the chance of them getting pregnant.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
How do you keep up with all the things you do, Nirmal? You've got this urology practice, and it's booming. Obviously, demand is continuing to grow. I know you got some real estate investment properties of different types. You've got another business. Tell us a little bit about the IV related supplement business that you have.
Sure. Well, I've always enjoyed trying to do various things, and being Northwest Arkansas Urology Associates and getting that is obviously a full-time gig.
And then some.
So we're very busy. Me and my three partners are very busy operating and seeing patients. And we actually recently established a pelvic health clinic, which is the first in Northwest Arkansas.
Pelvic health?
Pelvic health clinic. So for men and women with, urinary incontinence, pelvic pain, pelvic disorders, they can come to this clinic, and under one roof, we have a urogynecologist. He was a gynecologist that did a urology training who has done more robotic sacral colpopexies or vaginal reconstruction than anybody else in the state, Dr. Hurt. And then myself and Dr. Breckelbaum and Dr. Collins are urologists, and we all take care of urinary incontinence, obviously, and those types of disorders because we're experts in that. So under that, that's kept us busy, and that's relatively new. And that's, we have a lot of business from that. And then, of course, we all do general urology. So, we all do robotic procedures and laparoscopic procedures, minimally invasive procedures for all of the cancer operations that we can do. So that's kept us busy. But I've always enjoyed doing other things and keeping my mind active, as Mark and I have talked about for a long time. He's very similar, I would humbly suggest.
Wide-ranging interests.
Wide-ranging interests, that's exactly right. And so I initially, when I was first in private practice in Hot Springs, I knew I was going to get into real estate, so I did some real estate deals on the lake, and then I've still got some commercial property as well. And then when I came back to Fayetteville in 2007, I sort of continued that approach and did a few things. And lately, that Mark is referencing, a partner of mine, a business partner of mine, and a friend of at least 22 years, he's always come and talked to me. He's pretty well known in the franchise world. In fact, he's got about 59 or 60 sports clips throughout multiple states. And he and his son were, for instance, on the franchise magazine as a father and son, is they're into multi-unit franchising. And in this particular article, they're talking about Pet Supplies Plus. In fact, the Pet Supplies Plus here it's owned by them. Okay. And so
I don't know what that is.
It's a store for dog products and pet products.
Yeah, it's like a PetSmart or Petco.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Except for Johnny Weber, who's the guy would say it's better.
It's better, right? Yeah.
And so, but anyway, so I got talking with him, and he's kind of known about certain talents I have, and we both decided that this would be a good opportunity. So I got involved in a franchise called Prime IV Care Wellness and Care Solutions, and we just opened up a store in Frisco, Texas, and in Franklin, Tennessee. Franklin, where he's from.
Boomtowns.
Correct. And we're working on area development rights on some others, and we have some area development rights in South Florida and all of Tennessee right now. So each of these stores have medical directors, and I'll be involved in that fairly, in detail. Obviously, we'll have nurse practitioners. This is
what do they do? I don't
the concept. That's a good question. So I should get to that.
Yeah.
The concept is this company, which was out of Colorado Springs, Steve and Amy Neary, they're the CEOs of this company out of Colorado Springs, and actually a shark took notice of them, and they've been sponsored or advertised by this shark. They started it, and it's a relatively new franchise. I think it started in 2020 or 2019, maybe somewhere around there. And the concept is her background was in labs and health wellness in general. And the concept is coming into a sort of a spa atmosphere and getting some proprietary IV fluid solutions in a massage chair with some headphones and beautiful Zen type music. Yeah. And athletes do this all the time. There's certain components that you can have in these solutions that can kind of, make you relaxed or give you energy, get you hydrated. Interestingly, we're three guys in here. You would think that it's, sort of a hangover place, but that's only about 3% of the market.
It didn't even occur to me.
Well, but back in your youth, you probably would have thought about that.
Yeah. Got a lot of them in Vegas. So it's just in Vegas.
Really?
That's right.
Yeah, a lot of that.
Actually, there is a Prime IV.
Is there?
There's one of those on
Is
the
there
strip.
one in the Link Hotel by any chance? Do you know?
I'll find out.
Yeah, because I
know there's
passed
several
one.
there.
Yeah.
It's a blue sign.
Yeah.
Eric loves stuff like
It's
this.
got a drip on the top, so
Okay.
it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And again, we'll be opening up some here in this area very, very soon.
I was going to ask, why not in Northwest Arkansas?
Well, we're in the process of. I don't know if I should tell you this or not, but we're in the process of having the area development rights for Arkansas and Oklahoma. We've got that sort of negotiated. We just got to get it done, and then once that happens, when you have an area development right, there's certain things we have to do to make sure that those that buy the franchises are taken care of. But then we're definitely going to own, between him and I as partners, the stores up here in Northwest Arkansas for sure. I mean, there's several locations that will need to happen in Little Rock and elsewhere. But the concept is all about health and wellness and making sure that everybody is feeling good and feeling hydrated in a small atmosphere. In fact, within this concept are cryo chambers too, and we're going to be introducing that as well.
Is that like isolation, those floating deals or whatever they are?
No, you get into the chamber
therapy
itself. It's cold therapy.
Oh, okay.
It's cryotherapy, and
I thought that's what they did is they preserve your body so after
you're
dead,
talking
you can
about
be
cryogenics.
Okay. So
That's a little different.
Are you opening up a cryogenics franchise?
Listen, if I do that, then the first brain I will definitely preserve will be Mark Zweig's.
Yes.
I guarantee you that.
I want to check out.
Followed by Eric.
we can do a podcast about it. We'll just open it up and just kind of talk about it. That'd be awesome.
Don't save mine. I want to go on to the next thing. Whatever
would be-
it is. I'm getting tired.
That would
You're
be,
tired.
No, that would be great. So we're looking at, we're doing it, and we love the concept, and we're all about multi-unit franchise within a franchise. So buying one store is good, but
right.
him and I are partnering in trying to get multiple units and then getting area developments and then ironically we're opening up he and I another franchise in Miami called Red Phone Booth Cigar Bar Lounge.
That's cool.
And it's going to be open probably sometime in September in Miami, and we're pretty excited about that grand opening. I've already invited Mark to come with me for that grand opening if he can live. And Eric, you're welcome to do it too.
Thank you. I appreciate
It's a 6,500 square foot bar, and it's on it's on Instagram, and you can it's Brickell Brickell on Instagram, and Johnny Weber, that again my partner, has done a good job marketing that.
Is this the original or really?
This is the
so this
franchise.
isn't a franchise.
No, it's a national franchise.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, it is the original franchise, right? So there's one in Nashville, and
Okay, cool.
You're doing this in Miami, though, right?
this one's open in Miami. Yes, sir.
Okay.
So you own the franchising rights down in Miami.
Yeah, Johnny's owns the franchise.
Okay,
rights.
gotcha.
I'm a small partner on that one.
Yeah, I got you.
But
Cool.
it's ironic that we're going to be opening up a bar, and we also are.
So pollute your body and then go next door and get
I had to lead you to that,
Yeah.
but I was hoping I was subtle in this.
vertical integration.
I love that. Yep,
It's like my friend who's an orthodontist who has a huge candy assortment.
absolutely.
And
Well, I'm a urologist too, so if I can vertically integrate that into all these other things that I'm doing, hey man, I don't know. Let me think about it. Erectile dysfunction after hitting a bar, and I mean, there could be a lot of things there.
no kidding.
Yeah, love it.
Anyway,
Or the more fluids you take in, the more you urinate.
Yeah.
And that can be a problem, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially when you're my age. It's like people, I always love it. They interview and they say, well, what keeps you up at night, Eric? And I always say, my prostate condition. Okay? Last night it was 3 times. No, it wasn't. But
You just went deep.
I just like to say that.
Went deep on this podcast, bro.
I do like to say that, though.
And finally, the last thing I'll say that I'm involved in lately is in addition to being the managing partner of my group, which Mark knows that keeps me pretty busy too, in addition to just clinical medicine surgeries.
I mean, that's a big business.
It is. I mean, it is, but once, obviously, we've talked about this, most people that are decent at business are process driven. And I've spent a lot of time, especially since I've come back since 2007 to present, in creating processes that can be reproduced. In fact, I use that to open up with my wife, Arkansas Biomechanics and Rehabilitation, which is down the street from my urology group. My wife is involved in that. We're 50-50 partners with a chiropractor there. And we just use the same processes that I put in the urology business. But what I was going to get to on the process is I'm leading an effort now. It's not really well known, so I don't know. This is kind of a secret, so everybody should keep this as a secret. But as a joint venture ambulatory surgical center on the campus of Willow Creek.
Oh, wow.
And we have, and I'm leading that effort as the doctor. Obviously, there's the hospital system is going to be involved, and we're in talks right now to get that done on campus. And I think it's going to be a game changer because there's a lot of interest, unofficial and official interest. We're talking about maybe adding some medical office building space on top of this ambulatory surgical center, or perhaps doing the surgical center at the top floor. They would have a beautiful view to the right, where this location is in Johnson.
Sure.
And then the bypass would be readily, you can see it.
That's super convenient. It's got its own exit.
Right. It's right across the street from my office, so that's very convenient.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
So what is ambulatory
surgical center?
Center. What is that?
ASC. So, we do, surgeons do cases, obviously, in the hospital, some of which are require hospital stays and a couple of day stays. I mean, especially certain cancer operations. But, in urology, we do so many different types of surgeries, whether it's tiny procedures in our office, such as vasectomy. When I say tiny, no pun intended. But also, we can...
That's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah. I wanted to make the joke, but I don't want to mess with your business.
We'll edit that one out.
Like, we'll embellish that.
Right. I mean, those types of things that are outpatient. In urology, we do a ton of different stone operations. Even procedures for the prostate. I do green light lasers of the prostate, those types of things. They go home immediately.
Right.
So coming into a hospital system, that's a big
more
deal.
Overhead, more hassle.
Correct.
Yeah.
They just come to your clinic then.
No, they come to this ambulatory surgical center, and you just drive up, you're dropped off. It's less of a burdensome because you're not with a bunch of hospitalized patients, sick people, right?
Right.
And you come in.
And you can bring the surgeons in too.
The surgeons
you don't
come
have to do, they can just schedule the procedure there.
At that location. That's right. You meet your surgeon, do it, you go home within a few hours, and you're done.
That's great. Yeah. I'm gonna make a few of those myself. Sounds like a good time.
You've got, what drives you? Seriously, you don't need to do any of these things, okay? You could just do your urology practice and nothing else. Well, why are you so driven?
Well, Mark, you can obviously relate to this. I think that sometimes there is just a natural curiosity or natural drive that makes you want to do something more, something different to keep you intellectually stimulated. I'm a big reader. I like to read books. I like to go, I've gotten back into fly fishing with a buddy of 30 years, and I just came back from the Grand Bahamas going bone fishing, and that bone fishing with the fly rod is kind of like hunting, and I find that challenging. And my wife and I are going to go there in about a week or two. So, that attitude of having that challenge, having a car that can go fast, those things that about me, those are things that are, it's not necessarily thrill-seeking always, but it's interesting to me. So if it aligns with my sort of ethics and goals, and then I like to look into it. Like I said, when Johnny Weber talked to me about this sort of Prime IV wellness care solutions is really kind of aligns with what I want to do. I've gone to bars before, so that was interesting too to get involved in that. So, but in all seriousness, to answer your question, I think it has to do with my background, being a first generation American, and maybe the youngest of three boys, and watching your father's work ethic and as a immigrant with an accent, probably one of the first, if not the first, person of color to be hired by the University of Arkansas.
Wow.
Because my background
come a long way now.
It's Indian,
right?
Obviously.
Sure.
In 1966. And, obviously there were challenges that you saw and heard about as a child. And then seeing that, his and my mother's emphasis on sort of education and making it in what is the greatest country in the world.
Right.
Kind of puts a different perspective on things. Nothing was necessarily given other than the fact that the values of hard work and getting an education from my parents.
Yeah.
And obviously a comfortable, loving, unconditionally loving situation with my parents. I lost both of them within 9 months of each other in 2021 and 2022. And I think probably if I had to put it into one sentence, I would say that would probably be the driving thing for me. And I think that's not unique. Like I said, I read a lot of history. We talked about a lot of history together. And I think that one who is a student of history and understands, for instance, from the 1500s to present, our country and how it was shaped, there were various people that came here, some voluntarily, some not.
Right.
That there was that drive. The West was developed because of that drive. And I think that immigrants from the, early immigrants from, obviously England and Ireland and subsequently Italy and Germany.
Right.
And then recent immigrants that,
Hispanic,
that came over.
Mexico.
Correct.
Yes.
The Chinese, built our railway here. And then they had to go through the experience of having the Chinese Exclusion Act that didn't allow them to be citizens. That drives people. That drives people into thinking, you know what, I want to prove that I'm as good as the next guy. And I'm talking about those immigrants, because first generation Americans and obviously immigrants, they have a drive because they look at trying to put roots down in what we have as the greatest country in the world based on the uniqueness of our American experiment.
Right.
Where we have the three branches of government and we have checks and balances, and that, that usually stand up and work to make sure that there's justice for everybody. And that's unique, alongside with a capitalist country that has some regulation that allows each of us to be able to prosper.
Become wealthy.
And become wealthy.
Yeah, and stay wealthy.
Stay wealthy. And that's the individualism that is great about our country that allows somebody to do it. So, I don't know. I think as an immigrant and as a first-generation American, you'd have to be an idiot not to look into that if you have some intellect to try to do the best you can, and along the way take care of people, treat people with kindness and respect, which I've taught my three kids from the moment they were born. Yeah. And hopefully they grew up to kind of sort of do the same thing. But, studies have shown, like I said, going back to the history, that second, third, fourth generations
it's not the same, baby. The same. I know.
Well, I think that we forget the opportunity, right? I mean, if you come, it's just like anything. Grass is greener, right? And if you're born here, it's kind of surprising, that's, I think one thing I can relate with you is my folks kind of allowed me to experiment and play, right? There wasn't, because they were loving, caring, providing, supporting.
Mine were all that, but they were also burnt out. Yeah. Which really helped, because then they weren't on top of you.
Right.
That had a lot of freedom.
Yeah, freedom.
And I will tell you this, and this is interesting that you get into this. There are really good studies on this. There are two types of parenting. One is the one that you just described, and the one I had, because my father was a professor, and he promoted discussion at the table, promoted contrary views, respectfully delivered between the three of the kids and him and my mother. They both were educated. And that's a sort of a freewheeling discussion, and allows a young person to explore those recesses of their mind and believe that anything's possible. Yeah. The other one is an authoritarian model, and there are really studies on this. There are books about this.
Sure.
And those people, there's nothing wrong with either one. They both exist, and they both have pluses and minuses. But what these studies have shown is that on the authoritarian model, father the head of the house, traditional, I'd say Judeo-Christian traditional method of child rearing, that those people tend to seek out security when they're older.
Sure.
Even though they may rebel against it at the time, it's ingrained. And so they tend to follow. Yeah, absolutely. And we're
they're rule followers. They're not going to be entrepreneurs then.
Well, that's right. They don't think about, and then also they tend to believe certain people that have authority-like leanings. And if you look at people that tend to follow that are lemmings, perhaps, for lack of a better word, they tend to believe that because it's the father-centered, authoritarian-centered, it's my way.
Yeah.
Why is that? Because I said it so.
Yeah.
Whereas where perhaps you're raised, why is that, Dad? Well, let's talk about it. What do you think about it? And again, it's now on the other side of it, that also can lend itself to kids and to adults that may be entrepreneurs, but they also may be a little bit too free-spirited. They may have no discipline.
They reject everything.
It's anarchy.
True.
So, I mean, like I said, there's pluses and minuses.
Right.
But
I had some negatives.
Right. But at the end of the day, these studies absolutely suggest that ways you are raised really influence everything from how you raise your children to your politics, to your propensity or your leanings towards believing things without necessarily critical thinking.
Yes.
And we have a problem with lack of critical thinking.
Amen.
And one of the things that I can say from personal experience and business experience, and Mark probably agrees with this too, is, most people that can think critically tend to do better in business.
Yeah. I think so.
Even with the CEO, CFO mentality, obviously there's a hierarchy there. A CEO that is not open to discussion and let the team think things through, they
probably going to go off course.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So what do you?
I believe
when we say critical thinking, what do you give it as an example in a small business application?
I just read a very interesting article, essay from Mark. And he recently was discussing the difference between a business concentrating on growth versus concentrating on profit.
Right.
And, I think both are important.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But so let's kind of tie that into what we just talked about.
Yeah.
A person that is a CEO type that had that type of upbringing where it's a little bit, this is my limit, this is my profit. Mm-hmm. Let's stick to that because you know what? That's a healthy living, and that's good. He or she that has that, I'm not saying it's sort of a linear course from how you're raised to that, but if you read these articles, certainly there's something to it. We're all a product of how we're raised and our parents' influence. I mean, I was blessed with unconditionally loving, non-transactional parents, and that
I was too.
And that
I can say
that's
that
made me who I am. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
So in the former situation in this article, and I don't know, you know about this better than me, Mark, perhaps those people would be ones that would say, no, you know what, I've worked real hard for this.
I don't want to risk it.
I don't want to risk it. Let's keep it safe. I'm doing really well, better than my parents, and I want to pass something.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas where Mark comes in there and he's like, wait a second here. I've done some research about that particular brand, and I know in the world, or in the country at least, that brand has this amount of desire or market share. And if you really believe in what you're doing, I think, I don't know, I paraphrase Mark, you go for it.
Right.
You don't want to rest on your laurels. Take a chance. It's a little bit of what I'm doing right now with these, with these franchises, right? I mean,
you got a little risk.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah. I guess the only thing that's not risky right now is operating, doing stuff.
Yeah, it's your practice.
I mean, it's my practice. I'm sort of, I know that stuff.
Right.
And so, just to tie that into,
totally appreciate
tie that into the personality and how you're raised. I don't know if there's a direct deal there.
It's very interesting.
But I would think that there is. It's how we think things through.
It's the critical thinker.
And so a critical thinker would listen to answer your question. That critical thinker would have the background that's open enough to hear something from Mark like that's blowing their mind and go, wait a second here, and be able to critically think through everything. Gross revenue, net revenue, profitability, market share.
Yep.
Like he says, EBITDA. Not everything's based on EBITDA. In medicine, it is. A lot of things are sold based on EBITDA. ASCs, hospitals are based on a certain percentage.
Buying any equipment that you buy, they're all
that's right.
The payback period on it,
100%. And so, but he's saying something that's, I wouldn't even say it's provocative. I think it's probably business smart, right? And with the right product, I think you'd agree, and with the correct market analysis, you can grow that business and set yourself up here. And in medicine, I can relate to that because all we were taught growing up is what we call deferred gratification.
Work your ass off, save your money.
Go to med school, go into debt, do residency, top off at year 6 at $30,000 a year, being an MD, and you're deferring your gratification monetarily for sure.
Yeah.
But then you're deferring your gratification because eventually you're going to be a private guy or work for a hospital and try to take care of people. But that's a 15-year deferral, right? Just in that same way, you're asking that business with that profit to say, hey, don't take it all right now. Defer that gratification because you got to look at the big picture. I mean, tell me if I'm
you're
characterizing that wrong.
But the thing is, what I've found is when they do that, it doesn't take very long to really end up making far more than that. I mean, in the case I described in that article, those guys are more profitable as a percentage of revenue now than they were when they were 1/10 the size they are.
Yeah. And that's amazing.
Things start to take on an effect, the compounding effect of just a few investments and deferrals, as you said, can be astronomical what comes out the other end.
Conversely, there may be that person that does not want to do that. Yeah. They're happy. Again, that's not wrong either, as long as it's profitable. Not everybody's thinking big. Not everybody is.
I've had a lot, I'm not going to say there's anything wrong with it. If you own the business, you can do whatever you want with it.
Sure.
But I will say this, don't expect to keep really great people.
Yeah, that's true.
If your whole thing is, I don't really want to grow it.
Yeah.
Okay. You know why?
You should put the ceiling on everybody, not just yourself.
Yeah.
And this is another thing that goes back to why I do what I do and why you do. You take away incentive.
Yeah.
Of course you do.
Absolutely.
You take away incentive from a person for whatever it is, you take away everything.
Anybody who's grown a business, which we all have here, knows we can't do everything, okay? We need a team of people. I mean, you may be the rock star of the world.
No.
Somebody still, no, you are.
Hardly.
But somebody still got to do the billing. And got to schedule patients and schedule all the stuff that goes behind the scenes.
My administrator was there at Northwest Arkansas Urology Associates. My wife was here from Arkansas Biomechanics. They would tell you that one of the phrases I use, and I'm sure you have too, is that when you hire somebody, you sort of have a responsibility to make sure that they are successful in that job. Mm-hmm. And I go further than that. It is a team, to your point.
Yeah.
And so everybody has their roles. No one person can do it all, period. And
not anything that's worth doing.
Correct. And when you get that buy-in, that creates incentive, that creates rather pride, and then everybody rows together, especially if they're compensated for their work.
Absolutely.
And so one of the things I always say is, even if they don't make it in that particular job because it just wasn't a fit, if you have a big enough organization, why don't you try to find where that person can fit?
Another benefit of growth.
And I'll tell you,
you can find those places because when you're small, everybody's got to do everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you
know that turnover is a killer.
Yeah,
you want to have you don't want to have to retrain, and you're going to go through those. I'm going through that right now.
Plus, it's demoralizing to the other people.
He's in the software business. I mean, it's everything, and and there's so much demand for that talent and the crazy job opportunities that people have.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking with one of my friends yesterday. He lives in L.A. now, He was a software developer, and I knew him back when I lived in Boston. He lived in Cambridge. Really smart guy, okay? I'm sure he's somewhere way out on the spectrum. Brilliant.
Right.
Brilliant guy. Now he just has a sailboat out there and lives in Hollywood.
Oh, man.
And his wife is a movie star, okay? Wife number 3, like me. But
congratulations.
But anyway, he was telling me his son works for...
Third was the best.
What is Facebook called now? Meta? His son, he said his son makes 15 times more than he ever did in his job, that it's just staggering how much money that he's also...
Is he involved in Thread now?
He's involved in software development. He just left Meta and went to work for an AI company.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, yeah, the demand is out there. The point is, you can't... when you have that attitude, I want to just keep it small and manageable or whatever, maybe that makes you comfortable for a little while. But I do think there's something wrong with it, because I think you hold everybody back.
Oh, yeah. You put that low ceiling on them.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to, everybody's wanting to advance, feel the honor, and, or
they're not all going to do what they need to do to capitalize on that opportunity, but you can at least try to provide it.
I think you both are right for the people that are in this room. I'm gonna proffer this. Not everybody is the 3 people in this room, and some people want a business that they can pass on, almost a mom and pop that's sustainable, and it's tough to do that now. And I'm just saying, I meant not wrong for those people that say, hey, this is where I want to be limited, going back to what we said. And I mean, I wouldn't want to criticize that.
No, I think you're right. You're stringing together these things, though, into sort of a coherent view of why people do what they do. We're in business, and it makes a lot of sense to me. But it's funny, I think I told Eric this morning, we were on the phone, and last night I was part of a panel discussion out here at Pinnacle Country Club with these, wealth management guys. They brought in the big guns who do the estate planning, they do evaluation, they do all the wills, trusts, and estates and all that. And of course, we got into the family business thing. And it's really interesting. It's something on the order of 80% of all businesses in the United States are actually family businesses.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Small businesses.
It just has so many problems inherent with this passing it down. I got 3 kids. There was one couple there. They had 6 kids in a blended family, 2 of them from one parent and 4 from another. And 2 were going to be in the business and the other 4 weren't. And how do we deal with all those complexities? Absolute nightmare. So yeah, that whole family business component is a huge thing. But I'm a growth guy. Okay, I like to grow, and I've my whole career, I have battled against some business owners who will tell me how smart they are and how they don't want to grow. And I can tell you, I've had the benefit of some cases of seeing those companies over a 43-year career, the same companies, and most of them end up going out of business.
Oh, I agree.
They don't survive.
One thing I would also say to talk to you about the critical thinking that is apart from business, and then I want to ask you guys a question because you brought something up about AI. The critical thinking, apart from the dollars and cents of business, is also, how do you acquire knowledge? I mean, we have an epistemological crisis in our country on how we understand fact. It's a branch of logic.
Oh, it's terrible.
And
alternative facts. There are no alternative facts. No, there's facts and there's not facts.
There's but if you're not a critical thinker, and we can, instead of getting into politics, I can say there are some people that, again, believe things without, you talked about what drives me. Well, why do I read these books? Well, I read them on a variety of subjects, and I look at all viewpoints, which is why when I answer a question, I say that's not right or wrong, because there are elements of facts that I can see that other person thinking about. And so when you're thinking about...
In our culture today, though, people don't do that. It's either you're good or you're bad based on this.
Or if somebody... Right. And if somebody...
part of our problem.
That's it. And that's the critical thinking problem, right? So if somebody asserts something, right?
Yeah.
you're either going to take it at face value, or you're going to have the intellectual curiosity and the critical thinking skills to research that and look into it, which is a good segue.
Now they research it on the echo chamber of social media.
Well, that's right. And
I go back to all the people who like my shit on Facebook, and they all agree with me. So therefore
it's fact.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think the worst result of that is that when people don't critically think, it causes fear in them, subconscious fear, and that drives. Fear is what drives.
And anxiety.
You're right.
And anxiety. Well, yeah.
Because they don't really know. They don't know their trust in something.
They're lashing out anger, trying to protect themselves from something bad happened that's never really going to probably happen.
Yeah. The old adage, not always right, but always confident.
Yeah.
It's a kind of a facade.
Yeah,
sure.
So I want to ask you guys this, because I'll tell you, there are a lot of people out there that are worried about AI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know.
You both have a lot of expertise, probably.
I don't. He knows, I'm sure.
Eric, you find what are the legitimate? And this is me curious. AI is important on a variety of things. I get it. And you joked at the beginning of this podcast that I could change your voice, I could do whatever. Or actually, the gentleman
Parker did,
yeah, he sure did, and that fascinates me. Because artificial intelligence can be used in business in a way that could be successful, but it could. A lot of people are fearful of it. I mean, and people out there that just don't understand it are worried that artificial intelligence, oh my goodness, it's going to take over the world, and it feeds into some people that are more bent towards conspiracy theories.
Yeah, sure.
And it's to your point about fear and anxiety, it scares a lot of people. And I was just wondering, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that, I think that there's some right and some truth and some possibility in all that, right? I mean, I think that, your mind can wander into all the possibilities, and maybe it could turn out to be some of that, but I do think that it's going to probably take a lot longer for that to happen, right? I don't think that the AI world ending situation is going to happen in the next year or two, right? But I'm
looking at job security here. I do robotic procedures, but right. I'm in charge of the pedals that drive the instruments that are in the body, right?
Right.
Well, we have artificial insurance when I'm over there on Miami Beach.
Than some computer somewhere.
Well, so when I think that, it's, to me, I kind of liken it back to, look back when, the internet website became significant, digital marketing, social media, how all those things happened, and we were all slow to kind of get on board. There were some that weren't.
That it's like email. What do I need that?
Yeah, why do I need that? Why do I need a website? That. I can't tell you the amount of years, and there's still people that believe that, right?
That's a good point. Yeah.
Or why do I need content and pictures? Why do I need to do a video? Why would I do a podcast?
Right.
That doesn't mean anything.
Right. I don't listen to podcasts.
I don't. Exactly. It's always that thinking, and I think that unless you have to start participating with it. You have to welcome that into the business, and you don't necessarily need to know everything about it, but you need to start connecting dots and start using it, getting all the team used to it. It'd be the same thing as not bringing a computer into the office,
right,
because you're afraid that computers are going to take over everything, and so I would definitely encourage that. Our experience, we use AI models, and we produce some, we create some, and I would say that there's still a place for training those models, right? It's not like they can do everything and anything under the sun.
No, a lot of times you got to keep posing questions and refining and going back and back and back. And
there's still
it takes a brain to do that.
It does. There's a lot of people behind this stuff.
Exactly.
And I do think that there's going to be.
So you don't think there's learning that yes, behind that, but there are people that say, we see it. We see it on our social media, right?
Yeah.
There's certain things that come to you and you're like, wait a second, I just thought about that or looked up something.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure they're
capable of learning.
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah. But I think that's, if there's, the real problem is people misusing or,
right,
companies or entities misusing the AI in that learning. I think that we don't really know how that's going to play out, but I do believe that, as those things happen, there'll be an acceleration of regulations. There'll be acceleration of good AI and good bots that are countering those. It's kind of like the thing today, like email is a great thing, right? So is AI. But email, you get a lot of spam. or you get good messages.
Then we have spam filters.
Yes. Things start
then we get better spam filters.
Exactly. And then you get regulations to them.
Sounds like this is all going to be creating more business and more money for somebody.
No, that's exactly my point. I think it's just another iteration.
Another tool in a sense.
Yeah. And I think, there's some things that are concerning because I think unless...
Well, we've all seen the movies where the
robots kill everyone.
Yeah, right. They decide they don't need humanity any longer.
Right. But I think that, on the flip side of it too, right? And I think we've already experienced this in today's time. Like, okay, so one of my favorite places in Northwest Arkansas is Nelson's Hardware in Cave Springs, downtown Cave Springs.
Cool.
I love going in there and seeing Tim Nelson. And every time I go in, this guy's like, "Hey, Eric, how you doing?" He lets me borrow some equipment when I need it on the fly.
Sure.
I'm like, "Hey, can I rent this?" He's like, "I tell you what, you just use it and bring it back to me, take care of it." I'm like, "When can I bring it?" He's like, "Tuesday, Wednesday."
Wow.
I'm like, "Bro, this is fantastic."
Isn't that great? You feel great.
Fantastic. So I think that,
there.
Right.
Yeah, I think that people, and it's just like, okay, the whole trend, and it's kind of like your business with your drinkware. The trend of personalization, the trend of shop local and all these things, and it's local and it's crafty and all that. People still yearn for human touch. So like the bots, it's actually, we're going to see a lot of counter culture from people.
I could see that.
It's funny. I just read an article yesterday from a friend of mine who's an architect and a really brilliant guy, and he designs retail, and he lives out in L.A., and it was all on the fact that in this culture we live in where there's so many people who are isolated and alienated, they like going to a store and having a checker.
Absolutely.
They don't want to check out by themselves. That might be the only interaction they have. Is with the person in the checkout line.
Wasn't there a retailer that realized that? They tried to do this self-checkout, and they're starting to second-guess that?
Probably,
I can't remember who it is, but there's somebody that comes in mind. But, yeah, that may be the reason why.
But it was just kind of interesting.
I think that one thing, my closing comment about the AI, though.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I just want to make sure I completed the thought, because the most important thing is really AI is going to do all the shit that nobody wants to do anyway.
Yeah.
That's the good news.
Oh, that's great.
Right? And I think that we look at that, and that's where you need to really embrace it into the business. It's like, okay, something can get all these data points filled out, and whatever it might be. It speeds up my time, and it usually doesn't replace jobs. It allows, what we were talking about earlier, for somebody to do things that their brain is actually good at doing. Right. Versus meticulous work like data entry and whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So I think it
makes sense.
It's a welcoming thing, and we just got to accelerate with it. The thing is, but I would say on that is, don't necessarily have to write your own AI models. There's businesses, there's smart people like your friend's son, that are out there programming a lot of this stuff or teaching these models. There's going to be a lot of businesses that develop all that, and then you subscribe to those things.
Well, I've always been saying that about software for years.
Yeah.
I worked with these engineers my whole career, and they want to be like, we're going to design our own accounting, billing, project man. I'm like, why in the world would you do that?
Yeah.
When there's companies out there that put, hundreds of millions of dollars into R&D and have a million cases of users that have figured all this out.
Right.
It's insanity.
I think that, I agree. And a close on your clause, it went back to what I was saying earlier, is I think that in anything, there are always going to be malactors,
Oh, yeah. Sure.
And I think that at some point, there need to be, because I don't believe in a completely unregulated market.
Sure.
We've talked about that.
Yeah.
That leads to a lot of bad things.
Oh, yeah.
When we deregulated certain things in the 80s, for instance, it was a catastrophe.
Air traffic control.
That's one. Yeah. Absolutely. And, because I find these things, and I'm saying this about me, I have no knowledge on it. I say AI, I know what it means, artificial intelligence, but you've just illuminated a lot of things and applications that I didn't even think about, some of which I was unconscious about. It's happening right now. And I think that is what the population goes and goes, wow, where is this going to go?
Yeah, sure.
And like I said, there's malactors in everything, right? And I think at some point, leaders in that field need to really be responsible in terms of regulating applications. Because that's where I think the fear is. Whether that's a rational fear or not, it is a fear out there.
Well, it's always been like that. Right?
Social media has been a great example of, how it's gone off the rails. When social media first came out and I was aware of it, I thought, this is great. Everybody will know the truth about whatever it is.
Yeah.
All over the world, we'll know instantly whatever 100%. Is happening.
And there's some truth to that.
Yeah.
Too. I mean, there's still
potential exists to do that.
Well, the thing is like I'll watch my kids, right? They're 15, 16, 17-year-old girls, but it's scary on one side, right? The fear as a dad to those girls, right? And how anybody could be watching and all this stuff that they, some dude would know or whatever, right? Right. The 100%. Fears, right? But on the flip side of it, the way that they think has so much more of a worldly, I'd say in a positive light, from whatever it might be. They live in a completely with a worldview in mind instead of a Northwest Arkansas small.
I had no worldview when I was 16.
No,
I can guarantee.
No, hell no. But they.
My parents tried to give me one, but I was resistant.
Sure. Yeah. But when you're watching other people, your peers that. Live in Japan to all the way in Italy or whatever it might be, and you're stuck here. They have a more well-rounded perspective of life.
Absolutely. Listen, it's really funny. About a week ago, my daughter was telling me this, and you've met Danielle.
Yeah.
She said, Dad, I want to start something. I've kind of started it last week, and who knows where it's going to go, but she's developed this thing she says is going to be Humans of Northwest Arkansas. And you probably have heard of Humans of New York, which, my wife has followed, and there's Humans of India and Humans. Sure. And so, it's obviously something she's already done an interview. And I'm like, I would have she's 17.
Yeah.
I've got a 17-year-old boy and a 17-year-old girl. They're twins, and a 20-year-old boy. And I would never have thought about that. Now, I'm not a creative person, but I'll tell you. Damn, I can tell you, I wouldn't have ever thought that. Where does that come from? That comes from what you're talking about, social media, the big world view that your daughters have that we didn't have. So that's the good parts of it. And obviously we've experienced the bad parts.
There's negatives.
Right. Yeah. No, those are all good points for sure.
Yeah. So I think that the thing with AI, I think that it's going to be an interesting journey for sure. There's things that like for example, podcast videos, right? There's a lot of AI related to podcast videos, and we have to, and I tell the team, we must be the front runner of accepting AI into the business and taking whatever that is and passing that cost off to our clients, our subscribers. If we fail at that, we could be behind within a month and people will quit coming to us because I'm still charging $150, but it takes you 10 cents to create a podcast. Makes no sense. I provide you no value. So we have to always be modern and modern about what's coming in.
We went through that in the architecture world with CAD. Yep. They resisted it. It's like, we can't do that.
That's the greatest thing.
We're going to pass it on as a separate class. No, but the only way to really do it is to draw it by hand.
Yeah, and we got to keep charging the $450.
Exactly.
But and stick to what we can do well, which is strategy, but we still use AI in strategy. Yeah. Like we're going to ask certain questions that's going to populate into an AI model, spits back out for us, but we don't charge you an hour's worth of work where it took us 10 minutes to create this in an AI model.
Well, that's a very honest way of looking at it too.
And you have to, because you'll get busted. That's
maybe
the
you can charge 15 minutes for 10 minutes.
Now, can we say that to lawyers? Can we talk to them about that?
But you take the value of what's going on. I think it's applicable to any business. You take that AI value. Right. You just know how to use it in your business. That gives you a leg up right before the broader market catches on, or especially competitors catch on. Right. You accelerate in that learning, and then you keep the people focused on the people-related things. And so it's like, you can't AI taking you out for coffee and saying how you doing and being interested in your life.
No, exactly. There's some things that'll never be replaced.
We just talked about the relational value. Yeah. That we have about the small local side, right? The whole Nelson's Hardware. Like I love it that people love relationships. Right. It's not like it's going to be replaced. So this just allows your people to be more people related.
In the process of doing that, somebody has to be cognizant of understanding how important that relationship is.
Yes.
Because AI can also drive people apart.
Oh, totally.
In certain situations. and isolate people. And I think that there's several good books out there. There's one by Ben Sass, who's Nebraska. And the premise of it is, we have lost that sense of community and that sense of talking to our neighbors and going to a Walmart or wherever, or Nelson's. And because it's become so easy for us through social media, through ability to get
home delivery,
deliveries, drones that are dropping things. And it takes I think it takes a sensitive person to recognize that, and you have to proactively fight against that isolation in our world, because we have a crisis of loneliness in our world as well, and there are a lot of books on that as well. But
right. So I just went, I was in Vegas. I was at the Walmart. There was a Walmart event out there, and Walmart came and spoke a lot of leaders did. What I love about it, as I think we can agree, like Walmart is advancing with AI. They're advancing with all the drones, right? All that stuff.
We know Walmart is much more progressive than the rest of the world does. They think it's backward, but it's not at all. It's the most progressive company.
Very much. Look at what they did in the 70s. Even when I worked at Kmart for 2.5 years on 71 when they built that Walmart. Yeah. And Walton came to Kmart. It was Kresge Corporation.
Sure.
That's a big, I was from North somewhere.
I remember Michigan.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but Michigan. Yep. And think about what he did and think about what he thought. That was a very far-reaching deal to basically take over the world. I mean, for God's sake, and that's what they did. They're the largest retailer in the world.
They're the largest company.
That is
the largest company I think in the world with the number of employees.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yes.
But anyway, amidst all this omni-channel and stuff that they're doing, this acceleration they're doing technologically, their mission, their purpose statement is people-led, to help people. But they believe in that. And they're sticking by that. So to your point, right? Like they're not alienating the people that are buying their products or the people that are running their company. They still make sure that they have that. So I think that's, when we think about the CEO, the leaders, the board of Walmart, they got some pretty serious crap to be thinking about.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Big decisions.
Yeah, sure.
And to trust that, I think that's...
And yet Doug McMillan goes out to the stores and rides around with people in trucks and all of it. Yeah, I've seen it.
But he's still a people person.
Right.
So we can't lose that, right? We cannot lose that in this world.
Absolutely. Where you have the privilege to be a leader, you also have a responsibility to lead correctly.
Absolutely.
Based not just on your business acumen or your upbringing, but also on some core values. And I think people that lead that way, obviously we know what the goal of business is, but you can do that. You can do surgery. You can take care of patients. You can, launch glassware or do these other services and businesses, still keeping in mind that we're dealing with people.
Yeah.
And
listen, in the medical field, that's been a big problem. You know this.
What's that?
Just the bedside manner. Surgeons, they by nature have to disassociate themselves to a certain extent in order to be able to do their job.
Objective. Right.
Yeah. And yet and deal with the results. Which is life and death.
Absolutely. You go through you go through that in life and death as a surgeon, as a doctor, and then and honestly, it's a business, right? You got to get things going. Sure. You got to see the patients. You got to go things be efficient to get good quality care to your patients and do good surgical outcomes, and that all drives you. And then sometimes you're right, you can lose that. But I'll tell you, that's what I've said, and this is really good.
Bedside manner.
Well, bedside manner, but you also kind of lose perspective sometimes. Sure. And I always say this, that you lose perspective until somebody that you love or is in that situation, and you're not the surgeon
that's
in power.
You remember quick of that.
You're the customer, or you're the person, or you're the family member, and you're like, okay, I know how that person feels, and I think that's a very good thing to think about, and it keeps you grounded.
Hell yeah! To be honest, like every medical. So my wife's a nurse practitioner.
Sure.
And so she, with Highlands actually.
Yeah.
So but the reality is anybody in the medical industry that's seeing patients is a leader, to your point, is a leader. And I don't know that everybody kind of gets that. You are in a situation where you are leading somebody you're walking someone through life. They're absolutely following your, I mean, talk about a leader, right?
But
you're treating me, I am following everything that you're telling me to do.
And that's exactly what I started with. With the privilege of leadership comes responsibility.
Absolutely. Yes.
People listen to you, even quips, and you don't realize what you're saying. They're listening to most people are listening to a lot of your words, and they're looking at your expressions,
looking at your eyes,
looking in your eyes, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of responsibility to get it right. And not, nobody gets it right 100% of the time.
No, sure.
I can promise you that. But if you have it in your heart to try to get it right,
that's right.
That's all you can ask.
Big deal.
Yeah.
In business, I'm sure probably the three of us and many of our listeners have experienced this. Like you come into the office and maybe you got a million things on your mind and you walk past somebody and you don't say good morning to them. The next thing you know, it comes back to you from somebody else. So-and-so thinks you're upset with them.
Totally.
Absolutely. That happens a lot.
Yeah.
I know. I'm just kidding. No, I didn't even realize it.
You didn't say good morning to
That's
them
right.
today.
Right.
And it's, it's hard, but it is necessary to be tuned into all these things.
I know when I walk in, when I walk in the white spider land, like I am specifically, every time I open those doors and I walk in, I remember how absolutely important it is.
Well, you built it.
Yeah.
And so foundationally what you believed in when you built that company. And
you got to laugh at yourself. You got to laugh. You got to have some humor,
make fun of yourself.
Yeah, but
a lot of people can't do that.
Yeah, but just but going in, but that's
critical.
Even if there's only 5 people in the office when I walk in, but you have like 50 or something that might be there later that day. Those 5 that get that experience in the morning, it broods within the office, man.
Yep.
I mean, it really does. It sets an emotional foundation. I think a lot of times we forget that we're very emotional.
And I know I have too. I mean, when I come in from a surgery and I'm starting clinic, I have to be cognizant of understanding that, I got to put my face on, be there for my employees, and most importantly, be there for my patients or any other personal thing that's going on, family or otherwise. You've got to kind of separate it and move forward, because each room with a patient is an individual experience. There's patients that I'll talk to forever. We become friends too. Honestly.
Yeah.
And there's others that it's a little bit more of a transactional deal. Like it's just the way it is. That's the way the world is. But you've got to be able to communicate with that particular person in the way that you should.
I think we could all agree that in business, when you can have those interactions with your customers or your employees or your patients, in your case, those are some of the best interactions you can have. Those things are very satisfying for us, and those are the things that people talk about that distinguish you.
100%. And then your wife would attest to this too. We're unique in the sense that you can, with obviously in our day and age, it's different how medicine is practiced, and expectations and all of it. But when you've got that situation and you've taken care of that patient and you've established a relationship, whether it's whatever you're doing, and you are interacting and you reach that goal and you reach it together, it's probably one of the most fulfilling things that you can feel. As a healthcare provider, and I'm sure she would agree with that.
She would, but as Mark knows, my wife only attests to whatever the hell I tell her to attest to.
And Eric, that's a good wife.
It's but
that's why Mark's on his third.
And I'm sure your bride would agree with that.
Neither one right now. No way. I've got a strong
she'd be like, you're right.
Like, really?
And I'm going to come back to what you were saying before about what was it? The curiosity, the intellectual curiosity, the questioning, the skepticism. I have found, I'm going to generalize, which I don't like to do, women are better at that than men.
At what?
At being skeptical.
Oh, totally.
At
questioning,
being critical.
Sure.
I've been on so many boards that I got on and there was no woman on there. And these guys would jump off. You talk about lemmings. It's like, this client screwed us 3 times. The last 3 times we worked with him. But Bob's a good guy. And, I really like golfing with Bob. And Bob says he's got a lot more work coming. Let's all work for Bob. Whereas the woman in the room would be like, wait a minute. Bob still owes us $2.8 million. Are you out of your freaking mind?
That's right.
Okay. You tell Bob that until he comes and levels up with us, we're not going to touch his shit.
Going back to just on the intellectual curiosity, I'll tell you this. I remember, and I still remember it. I don't know what class it was. I think I was in high school. But I remember it, and I still quote it and say it's a guy named Peter Abelard, I think was a philosopher of some time, and his one of the things he said was and I know you love this, Mark, a persistent and frequent questioning is the master key to knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
I used to get in trouble for that. My dad would say, quit asking so many questions. Out in public, he'd pinch my thigh. And I was talking too much because obviously I talked too much when I was a little kid. But I was questioning. I was always asking questions. Sure. And that goes back to the raising. The raising. That's right.
Yeah.
If you suppress questioning and your answer is because that's the way it is, and as long as you're under my house, that's the way it is. Mm-hmm. That creates...
Or under my roof in my business, that's the way it is.
That's it. Same thing.
That's good.
That's good. Same. As opposed to, hey, let's have a dialogue.
Yeah.
And let's go through different ideas. And it may be that CEO is going to make that decision.
Right.
But question. Everybody should question everything. In my meetings I have in many businesses, I'm always promoting questioning. So, hey, is there any way we can do this better? New hires, when I interview them, I've interviewed somebody. I said, listen, we have these processes in place because I'm process driven, but you know what? That doesn't mean it's right.
Right. And do learn our process first before you want to change it, because you might understand why it's done that way.
Correct. Yeah.
A lot of people that come in like on the second day, you're idiots.
So that's arrogance. That's a whole other story.
I mean, it's like, wait a minute, you don't even understand why we do what we do.
No, I agree with that.
I've had these young financial guys, I want to just strangle them. I really do.
Yeah.
They're so freaking arrogant.
What do they do? Like, for example,
like you say, I need these 10 pieces of information on this report on a certain schedule. Well, I'm going to give you 28 other things and only 2 of what you asked for because these are better. Wait a minute. You don't know what's better yet. Maybe you'll come up with some. Yeah.
But what if they do, though? I mean, don't you think that somebody can know what's better like immediately?
I think it's unlikely.
What are we talking about, arrogance? What are we talking about?
I think they need to learn the system first to understand.
No, I agree with that.
That there may be logic.
When you have a successful business and you're a successful business person like you two clearly are, something's worked.
Yeah.
My point is that basic process can be tweaked, and sometimes we may have the blinders onto that tweakness for a variety of reasons.
They're closer to the action,
or whether it's just easier to keep on doing it.
Yeah.
The ability to be able to listen to somebody question that, and there's nothing wrong with saying, "Hey, no, I don't want to do those. I want to do these 28 things because I think better." I mean, the answer the question I'd say is, why do you think you'll be better?
Yeah.
And explain yourself. And if they can't enunciate sort of why, then I'd be just like, get the 10 things. And
you're absolutely right. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's all valid stuff. Well, listen, guys, we're running out of time.
Wait, are we?
We are.
How long have we been on the show now?
Like an hour and 10 minutes or something like that.
We're running out.
We're going to have to wrap this up.
Man. But we have to do this again.
I know we should bring Nirmal back.
Absolutely.
We could have
I learned a lot from you.
We could have a tri-host.
A tri-host.
I like that program.
I like, kind of a 3-way thing.
That sounds great. That sounds great.
We'll invite some others.
I like a tri-host idea.
You always say stuff like that.
I'm like
but no, seriously. And you can see why I wanted to have Nirmal on here. He's a very intelligent, very thoughtful guy.
That's nice.
And he's pushing the limits in everything that he does.
Yeah,
and
cool.
And I think that is the mark of a true entrepreneur.
Well, what I love, too, is you brought up history. I think there's some, we didn't even get into that, which I'd love to have it in the podcast. Can we do that? Because I got a book.
Absolutely.
I'm a big American entrepreneur history buff. Like,
I could learn a lot from you on that.
Well, I don't know.
You met Morgan and Henry Ford and
my thing was when I started my first business, I had no idea that I was an entrepreneur. I didn't even know what the word meant. Right. Unlike Mark's way he educates
name an entrepreneur that actually thought they're an entrepreneur before they became an entrepreneur.
Well, there's a lot of them. Mark's training all of them around now.
Well, I don't know about that.
But did they think they are already?
Some of them probably do, don't they? I've got studying to be entrepreneurs.
Oh, yeah. Some of them have already done some significant stuff.
Right.
But when I found out, then I went through a period of I was 22 when I started my first gig. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea.
That's amazing.
I mean, but it wasn't until 5 years later that I heard and put together, wait a minute, am I an entrepreneur? Somebody told me I was. One time I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? I don't even know. Yeah. But then I started reading about it, the word, and I started finding all these people that think about the same kind of, or have the same stories I do, which are basically like hitting brick walls everywhere you go as an entrepreneur.
Right.
But we need to have a podcast about it. There's a book called American Entrepreneur that is absolutely fantastic. And it goes through the history, and to your point, like you said, United States, it starts back when the country was first founded, because a lot of times we're taught that this country is built upon, our political leaders. But nobody ever you don't get taught the perspective of built upon the American entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
The immigrants coming in the United States and making business happen, and how that's just it impacts everything in our humanity today in this country.
No doubt about it.
I believe this country was built off entrepreneurs.
Listen, I do too. I mean, business takes everything you've got. Yeah. That's what I like about it. I mean, it is absolutely the most intellectually challenging thing I've found.
Yeah. It does. It takes everything you have in your
everything you got. Everything you got.
It's been like that for hundreds of years.
Well, it makes sense, right? It's combining sociology, psychology, math, market analysis, constantly checking to see if things are working. I mean, critical thinking,
emotional
intelligence, lots of coffee, So absolutely, sometimes a bottle of scotch. So 100%
takes alcohol, takes caffeine.
So it takes it all.
All right. Well, this is going too far now.
But this is though. I mean, we can rewind this video back. Somebody could for about 3 minutes. Yeah.
Okay.
You went maybe too far earlier.
Okay. Yeah. I
remember.
I remember.
Yeah.
I didn't
all right.
respond.
So
I love it.
So we're going to wrap it up today, guys. We appreciate you tuning in. This has been another episode of Big Talk about small business. And tune in again next week, and we'll have another guest, hopefully. And Nirmal, we really appreciate you being here.
Well, thanks for having me.
Awesome.
Thanks for
honor to meet you, man.
Hey, same here.
Rocking.
Same here. Enjoyed it.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Big Talk about small business. If you have any questions or ideas for upcoming shows, be sure to head over to our website, www.bigtalkaboutsmallbusiness.com, and click on the Ask the Host button for the chance to have your questions answered on the show. Stay connected with us on LinkedIn at Big Talk About Small Business. And be sure to head over to our website to read articles, browse episodes, and ask questions about upcoming shows.